Okay, so today we're going to talk about shoes that don't work for you. Okay, what are the shoes that you are wearing that you really don't want to be wearing? You feel uncomfortable, you may not really understand why. And we want to also identify ones that sometimes you feel you're forced to wear just in order to feel accepted and part of the clan, the family, the herd, the mates, whatever, the work colleagues, whatever the case may be. But really at the end of the day, you're just like, that's really uncomfortable. I don't really want to be wearing those. But I have to tell you that this is quite often, these kind of shoes that you don't want to be wearing is often goes unquestioned. This is quite a big one really, because, a lot of people wear and do stuff because that's just how it's always been done. They've never questioned it. They feel like they should have to wear these shoes in order to be accepted with their friends, their family, their peers, whatever the case may be. And half the time I find it's just that they don't even know how they landed up wearing them in the first place. It's like, why do I wear them? I mean, if they're so damn uncomfortable, like if I took my shoes off now, and this is one of the exercises that I do if I've got a group of people together, I say, okay, let's take your shoes off and I want you to wear the person's shoes next to you for the next half hour. And I want you to actually walk around and do everything that you normally would as if you were wearing their shoes their way. Okay. And whilst it's very entertaining, I can also tell you that after a period of time, people find it rather uncomfortable. So if the shoes are too big, you're flopping around, you're falling out of them, it's all funny and ha-ha, and it makes for a great entertainment. But then there's like guys wearing high heels. That's a hoot. Their feet are too big, but their feet are getting squeezed. It's uncomfortable, but they're not allowed to take them off for the next X amount of minutes. And so they're hobbling around and they're so relieved when they take them off. This just didn't suit them. And yet in our everyday lifestyle, because we have been conditioned by our family, conditioned by our peers, conditioned by society, our cultural norms, there's an expectation that you will literally wear shoes that do not fit you, that do not suit you. And sometimes we just willingly accept it. Like we don't even go, do you know what, I'm wearing these high heels and honestly, they are so uncomfortable, I don't want to even wear them. For me, I'm literally not a big high heel fan. They're just so darn uncomfortable. And, you're teeter-totting around all day, it slows me down. It's probably half of it, I just want to get going. So, you can still look smart without having all of that. But, it's whatever floats your boats. If high heels or you think, go for it, baby. I've got no bones, with that at all, If it suits you, if it's what you want to wear and you feel comfortable in it, then absolutely fine. In fact, I've got a friend who actually wears high heel slippers because she's worn high heels for so long that it's actually uncomfortable for her arches when they're flat. So even at home, she wears high heels, which I always find quite staggering. So this is the thing that I want you to start looking at today. What are the role models that we've taken on sometimes that haven't worked for us, that we haven't questioned? What are those little patchwork quilts? Yesterday we were talking about what did work for us. Today we're talking about what doesn't work for us, and to start questioning ones that we were like, do you know what, I am uncomfortable wearing those and I've never really thought why, and starting to explore just that little patch. So I'll tell you something as well that I often find. Let me give you an example that I find, and it's an extreme case, like with alcoholics. Children of alcoholics, they either are complete alcoholics themselves or they're complete teetotalers. I tend to find that when they've had an extreme drinker in the family, they are either one or the other, okay, and hardly ever in between. So, you tend to find that they won't even take a drop of alcohol. So in that moment, they looked at the patchwork quilt, the shoes that their father or the mother was doing and wearing, those shoes, those big drinking shoes, and going, do you know what? I never, ever want to be like that person. Like, the trauma that I've gone through because of all the yo-yo and the, unpredictability, and, it's just unpleasant, and possibly the fighting and the hangovers the next day and the crankiness, all of that is enough for them to go, I don't want to wear those shoes. And it's quite often, it's an unconscious, like a subconscious decision that they actually make not to wear those shoes. Then it's the other extreme as well. Oddly, in the case of, like, say, drinking, in a way, if they are not getting validation, I often find this is the case, and it's not always the case, but quite often, if they are not getting validation from the person who is lost in their drinking, which is common, because the reason that they're drinking is because they're trying to escape away from something and distract themselves from whatever the pain is. They're self-soothing, and they're distracting from whatever their concern is. That self-soothing, they see a benefit in that on an unconscious or subconscious level. And the second thing is they want to identify. It's almost like, if I live it, then maybe I can get the validation. I can be most like him or most like her by doing that myself. And of course, and they feed that, and then of course they get lost in it themselves. And in fact, it's really just a trauma thing and chemical imbalance quite often as well, depending on the situation and genetic predispositions. But one of the things I would say quickly just about that is, if you look at Bruce Lipton's stuff, very, very interesting, all about the genetics, and he talks about how it's actually, if the environment supports the gene to manifest those symptoms, then and you live that lifestyle, it'll actually trigger that gene to behave in that way. So in the example of a drinking environment, someone with their big huge drinking shoes on, I actually have had this where a guy said to me, but I just want you to hypnotize me so that I can just have 2 or 3 drinks a day. And I unfortunately, in his case, the genetic predisposition that he had basically meant that he had to go teetotal, all or nothing. Like there's no half measures, because just a little bit of the alcohol would trigger, and away it goes, and he would go on a full binge. So he had mega drinking boots on. So there's the binge drinking boots, there's the consistent drinking boots, there's the high performance drinkers, alcoholics. So it's not just drinking. That's just an example, but it's also alcoholism in any form is an addiction. So some are more socially accepted, unfortunately, like drinking, like smoking, which is becoming less popular now, but everybody seems to be doing this vaping thing, and I'm not too sure about that either, because I think it's full of chemicals, so that can't be good for your lungs. But there you go. Don't know much about it, but it's just, again, question it. And then the other thing with the alcohol, with alcoholism, is things like work. We actually socially reward people for working harder. So there's certain things that we need to question, like, do you want to be wearing your work shoes for 10 to 15 hours a day? Sometimes you don't have a choice, some people say to me, and it's like, well, how can we change that? Maybe it's that you don't wear your working shoes all the time, and you take a bit of your money out and you start looking at wearing different shoes, like studying for something that is in line with your true passion, your spiritual soul self, that is going to give you the joy and hopefully a much better pay packet with less hours. And most of the time that is actually achievable, but a lot of people don't even see the door opening. They don't question it. They go, right, well, I just wear these shoes because that's what is done. I love the one example with this acceptance of, well, it's just always been done that way, and we don't do it any different. And it was a story that Wayne Dwyer talked about, and I thought it was hysterical. Something about he was eating, was it Thanksgiving dinner, and it was ham, and he went up to he noticed that the granny was the mother was cutting the ends of the ham off every time whenever they went there for their Christmas, their Thanksgiving. So they'd lop each end off, and he said, well, why do you do that? And she said, well, actually, I don't know. I learned it from my mother. So she was there, and so he went to that mother and said, why did you teach your child to cut the ends off? And she said, well, I don't know. It's always been done that way. I learned it from my mother. So he went to the great grandmother, who was still alive and at the Thanksgiving, and he went to her and said, why did you teach your kids to cut off the ends of the ham? And she said, well, back in the day in Eastern Europe, we had very, very small ovens, and I couldn't fit the ham in, so that's why we chopped off the end. No other reason. But it had never been questioned. And this is my whole thing, is like, are those, is that what you want to be doing with your life? Isn't it time to go, are these my shoes I want to wear? If they don't suit me, how do I change that? So that's just ham. Imagine on the more, important things. It's like, why am I wearing those shoes that Dad told me, or Mum told me, or my friends told me? Or do I want to be wearing them? And, if I don't, how do I go, do you know what? Like, it might be that I don't like tennis, and it's just like, I hate it. I actually quite like tennis, but, I don't want to go play it, so don't play. There'll be other things, and there'll be other things. Maybe you like golf, or maybe you like swimming. Go find people who take their shoes off and go for a swim more often, or go surfing. Maybe it's that you go and everybody goes, well, you've always done golf with me. I don't like it that you're suddenly going off surfing, lady. And you go, well, do you know what? I'm actually a water babe, and I love that, and I am. I'd much rather be in water. Throw me in water any day. I am so there, baby. It's not funny, in the water, on the water, under the water, I don't care. Anywhere in water, sweet, cold, hot, you name it, bring it on. And yet there's others, who, I've got relatives who just don't, they are land people. They do not want to go anywhere near water, which to me is completely foreign. But I'm not going to judge them. Those are their shoes. They like to wear walking shoes or hiking shoes or climbing shoes. I like to shoes off in the water and playing anything, doesn't matter what. And so for you guys, what I would like you to now think about is what shoes have you been made to wear? What shoes are you wearing that don't fit you, that that you've never questioned? Do you know what, Vicki, I've always worn this, and I've always done it this way, and I've never really thought about it. It's like the ham, the ham lady. It's like all that ham that's gone to waste all those years, every Thanksgiving, because because it actually didn't fit in the first oven. I mean, I couldn't believe the story. That's great. So that's a perfect example. So don't be that ham person. Let's start going, right, I remember those shoes, and I don't like that. And look, if you've now become aware of something, it's like, for example, the drinking or some kind of negative role model that you've somehow picked up on, start exploring that. And if it's deep-seated, do get some help. Don't try and wing it on your own. But if you think you can shift it on your own, then go for it. This is what all of these things are. And I'm going to give you some tips to do that. So I hope you found that useful. Right. So please, today, 3 of your negative role models, or shoes that you wear that you've never questioned wearing. So, you might do a bit of a mix, but just 3. Dedicate the time, 10 minutes for yourself, to get you in your shoes you want to wear, on the path you want to be walking on, with a whole crowd of lovely ladies who are there to help and support you, and we're all going in the right direction of purpose-driven lives. How does that sound? Really good? Hope so. Thumbs up, please, if you don't mind. And if you found this useful, maybe one of your friends would find it useful too. Would you mind sharing it? I would be most grateful. Thank you so much for your time, everybody, and I will see you next time. Take care now. Bye.